For centuries, this extraordinary white mushroom has quietly grown on ancient hardwood trees, tucked away in the deep forests of Asia, Europe, and North America, largely unnoticed by the modern world. Today, scientists in laboratories on nearly every continent are studying it for one fascinating reason. It may help support one of the most complex and mysterious organs in the human body, the brain. This is the story of lion's mane, a mushroom that looks almost otherworldly, cascading in soft white strands like fur or icicles, and a story of how an ancient forest organism found its way into modern neuroscience. If you have never seen a lion's mane mushroom in its natural form, it is unlike anything else growing in the woods. Instead of the familiar cap and stem shape most people picture when they think of a mushroom, lion's mane grows as a single rounded mass, covered in long, delicate, tooth-like spines that hang downward. When the light catches it just right, it genuinely resembles the flowing mane of a lion, or perhaps a waterfall frozen mid-cascade. It is this striking appearance that gives the mushroom its most common English name, though in different cultures, it carries other names, including the pom-pom mushroom, the bearded tooth mushroom, and in parts of East Asia, the monkey head mushroom, a nod to its shaggy, animal-like texture. Scientifically known as Hericium erinaceus, lion's mane belongs to a small family of tooth fungi, an unusual group that produces spores from hanging spines, rather than the gills most people associate with mushrooms. It grows almost exclusively on dead or dying hardwood trees, especially oak, beech, walnut, and maple, appearing in late summer and autumn in temperate forests across North America, Europe, and Asia. In the wild, it tends to grow high on tree trunks or fallen logs, often in a single fruiting body, making it something of a prized and somewhat rare find for foragers who know exactly where to look. For those who forage, identification is fairly straightforward once you know what to look for. There is no cap, no gills, and no stem in the traditional sense. Instead, you are looking for a compact white or cream-coloured mass, sometimes as small as a fist, sometimes as large as a soccer ball, with spines that can grow anywhere from half an inch to several inches long. As the mushroom ages, it can develop a yellowish or slightly brownish tint. While wild foraging has its charm, most of the lion's mane consumed today, whether fresh, dried, or in supplement form, comes from careful cultivation, a practice that has grown enormously over the past 2 decades as scientific interest in the mushroom has increased. In the wild, lion's mane plays an important ecological role as what mycologists call a saprotrophic and sometimes weakly parasitic fungus, meaning it primarily feeds on dead or damaged wood, quietly breaking down the tough lignin and cellulose that give trees their structure. And in doing so, it helps return nutrients to the forest floor. This process, unglamorous as it may sound, is a vital part of how forest ecosystems recycle themselves over time, and it is one small reminder that fungi, often overlooked in favour of more visible plant and animal life, perform some of the most essential work in nature. Cultivating lion's mane requires patience and precise conditions. Growers typically inoculate sawdust or hardwood logs with mushroom spawn, then wait for the mycelium, the thread-like root structure of the fungus, to colonize the material before fruiting bodies begin to emerge, a process that can take anywhere from several weeks to a few months, depending on temperature, humidity, and the substrate used. Commercial growers often work in carefully controlled fruiting chambers, where humidity levels are kept high, fresh air exchange is closely monitored, and temperature is regulated to encourage the mushroom to form its distinctive cascading spines, rather than a flatter, less desirable shape. Once harvested, the mushroom can be prepared in several different ways, depending on its intended use. Fresh lion's mane is delicate and best used quickly, ideally within a few days of harvest, while dried lion's mane can be stored for extended periods and later rehydrated or ground into powder. From there, manufacturers create extracts, capsules, tinctures, and powders, each processed differently to concentrate specific compounds within the mushroom, which brings us to the real reason this fungus has captured the attention of so many researchers. Inside lion's mane are two groups of compounds that are, quite simply, rare in the natural world. The first are called hericenones, found primarily in the fruiting body, the part of the mushroom you would see growing on a tree. The second are called erinacines, found primarily in the mycelium, the underground network of the fungus. Together, these compounds have become the focus of a growing body of research because of their potential ability to interact with the nervous system in unique ways. Alongside these signature compounds, lion's mane also contains beta-glucans, a type of polysaccharide found in many medicinal mushrooms and known for its interaction with the immune system, as well as a range of antioxidants, dietary fiber, and trace minerals including potassium, zinc, and selenium. Scientists are interested in these compounds because, in laboratory studies, some of them appear to interact with a protein known as nerve growth factor, or NGF. Nerve growth factor plays an important role in the health, growth, and maintenance of neurons, the specialized cells that transmit information throughout the brain and nervous system. This is where the excitement and the necessary caution begins. Laboratory and animal studies have shown that certain compounds in lion's mane may stimulate the production of nerve growth factor, and researchers have observed changes in neuron growth and nerve regeneration in these controlled settings. It is important to understand that most of this research so far has taken place in petri dishes and in animal models, particularly mice and rats, rather than in large-scale human trials. That distinction matters enormously, and it is one that any responsible conversation about lion's mane must make clear. Traditional use, animal research, and human clinical research are three very different levels of evidence, and lion's mane currently sits at different stages across each of them, depending on the specific health topic. Traditional use of lion's mane stretches back centuries in China and Japan, where it was valued in traditional medicine systems and often reserved for royalty and Buddhist monks, who were said to consume it to support mental clarity and focus during long periods of meditation and study. This traditional reputation is part of what first drew modern scientific attention to the mushroom. But traditional use alone does not prove a health benefit in the way that rigorous clinical research does. When it comes to brain health specifically, a handful of small human clinical trials have been conducted, and their early results are intriguing enough to justify continued research, even though the body of evidence remains limited. One frequently cited study followed older adults with mild cognitive concerns who consumed lion's mane powder over several weeks, and researchers observed improvements in certain cognitive assessment scores compared to a placebo group, though those improvements appeared to fade after supplementation stopped, suggesting that consistent use may be necessary for any potential benefit to be maintained. Other small trials have explored lion's mane in relation to mood and stress, with some participants reporting reduced feelings of anxiety and irritability during the study period. Researchers continue to investigate whether these effects relate to nerve growth factor stimulation, anti-inflammatory activity, antioxidant effects, or some combination of biological pathways that scientists do not yet fully understand. It is worth pausing here to be absolutely clear. Lion's mane has not been proven to cure, treat, or reverse any neurological disease, including Alzheimer's disease, dementia, or any other serious cognitive condition. No reputable scientist or medical organization makes that claim, and any product or article suggesting otherwise should be treated with skepticism. What research suggests, cautiously and incrementally, is that certain compounds in lion's mane may support healthy nervous system function and may play a role in promoting the kind of cellular environment in which neurons can potentially maintain and repair themselves more effectively. This is fundamentally different from claiming a cure, and the distinction is one that honest science communication must always preserve. Beyond the brain, researchers have also turned their attention to how lion's mane may interact with the immune system. The beta-glucans found in lion's mane belong to a class of compounds studied across many types of medicinal mushrooms, including reishi, shiitake, and turkey tail, for their potential to modulate immune cell activity. In laboratory studies, beta-glucans have been shown to interact with receptors on immune cells, potentially influencing how the body responds to pathogens and inflammation. Human research in this specific area remains limited for lion's mane, though the broader category of mushroom beta-glucans has a longer and more established research history, particularly in parts of Asia where mushroom extracts have been studied alongside conventional medical treatments for decades. Digestive health is another area where lion's mane has drawn scientific curiosity, partly because of its traditional use in Asian herbal medicine for stomach discomfort, and partly because of emerging research into the gut microbiome. Some laboratory and animal studies suggest that polysaccharides in lion's mane may support the growth of beneficial gut bacteria, functioning somewhat like a prebiotic, while also potentially soothing the lining of the digestive tract. Researchers investigating inflammation more broadly have noted that lion's mane contains antioxidant compounds capable of neutralizing free radicals in laboratory settings, a quality shared by many mushrooms, and one that contributes to general cellular protection. Though the human clinical evidence connecting lion's mane specifically to reduced inflammation markers is still in its early stages. Sleep quality is a more recent area of interest, closely tied to lion's mane's potential effects on stress and the nervous system. Some early research and a considerable amount of anecdotal reporting suggest that consistent use may support more restful sleep, possibly through indirect pathways involving reduced stress and a calmer nervous system rather than any direct sedative effect. As with several other areas we have discussed, this remains an emerging field of study rather than an established conclusion, and anyone dealing with a diagnosed sleep disorder should rely on medical guidance rather than mushroom supplementation alone. The connection between lion's mane and mood deserves a closer look because it touches on one of the more intriguing threads running through the current research. Chronic stress and low mood have both been linked in various strands of neuroscience research to reduced levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein related to nerve growth factor that plays a role in how the brain adapts and forms new connections over time. Some researchers have theorized that if lion's mane compounds do influence nerve growth factor activity, there could be a downstream relationship with mood regulation as well, though this remains a hypothesis under active investigation rather than a proven mechanism. A small number of human trials, primarily conducted in Japan, have examined lion's mane supplementation in women reporting symptoms of irritability and anxiety, and some of these studies noted modest improvements over the trial period. These findings are encouraging, but the sample sizes have generally been small, and researchers are careful to note that larger, more diverse trials are needed before any firm conclusions can be drawn about lion's mane as a tool for supporting emotional well-being. Stepping away from the laboratory for a moment, let's talk about what lion's mane actually offers nutritionally, because beyond its more headline-grabbing research, it is genuinely a nutritious food in its own right. Fresh lion's mane is low in calories, generally containing around 30 to 40 calories per 100 gram serving, while offering a respectable amount of protein for a fungus, along with dietary fiber that supports digestive regularity. It contains small but meaningful amounts of B vitamins, which play a role in energy metabolism, along with minerals like potassium, which supports healthy blood pressure regulation, and zinc, which contributes to immune function and wound healing. When it fits into a balanced diet, alongside vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins, lion's mane can be a flavorful and health-conscious addition, rather than a replacement for medical treatment or a balanced nutritional foundation. And what does it actually taste like? This might surprise you. Chefs and home cooks alike often describe fresh lion's mane as having a taste and texture remarkably similar to seafood, particularly crab or lobster, which has made it a popular ingredient among people following plant-based diets who miss that specific flavor profile. When sliced and sautéed in butter or olive oil, the mushroom develops a golden, slightly crisp exterior while remaining tender inside, with a mild, faintly sweet flavor that easily absorbs the seasonings and sauces it is cooked with. It works beautifully in dishes where you might otherwise use crab cakes, seafood bisque, or scallops, and many recipes online showcase lion's mane steaks, pan-seared and finished with garlic, lemon, and fresh herbs. Beyond the classic pan-sear, lion's mane lends itself to a surprising range of preparations. Some cooks tear the mushroom into smaller pieces resembling pulled meat, then roast it with smoked paprika and olive oil until crisp at the edges, creating a plant-based alternative that mimics the texture of shredded pork or chicken in tacos and sandwiches. Others simmer it slowly in broths and soups, where it absorbs the surrounding flavors while contributing a subtle earthiness of its own, a technique long used in East Asian cooking traditions, where lion's mane has appeared in soups and stews for generations. It also pairs beautifully with butter, thyme, and a splash of white wine, or can be breaded and lightly fried for a crisp, savory bite. For those less interested in cooking, dried slices can be simmered gently to create a warm, mellow tea, offering a simple ritual for anyone looking to incorporate the mushroom into a quiet moment of their day. Beyond savory cooking, dried lion's mane powder has become a popular addition to teas, coffees, and smoothies, particularly among those following the growing trend of functional mushroom beverages. A teaspoon of lion's mane powder stirred into your morning coffee, or a warm cup of tea is a simple, low-effort way to incorporate the mushroom into a daily routine. And many people appreciate that it carries a mild, slightly nutty, earthy flavor rather than an overpowering mushroom taste. Some prefer capsules or tinctures for convenience and consistent dosing, particularly when using concentrated extracts intended to deliver specific compound concentrations that would be difficult to achieve through food alone. This brings us to an important safety conversation, because whole food lion's mane and concentrated supplement extracts are simply not the same thing, and treating them identically can lead to confusion. Eating lion's mane as a culinary mushroom in modest food-level quantities is generally considered safe for most healthy adults. Concentrated extracts and supplements, however, deliver much higher doses of specific compounds, and like any supplement, they deserve a more cautious approach. As with any mushroom, allergic reactions are possible, and individuals with known mushroom allergies or sensitivities should avoid lion's mane entirely. There have also been rare reports of skin reactions and respiratory symptoms in individuals with existing allergic tendencies. So anyone trying it for the first time should start with a small amount and pay attention to how their body responds. Because lion's mane may influence blood clotting and blood sugar levels in some studies, individuals taking blood-thinning medications or diabetes medications should speak with a healthcare provider before adding concentrated lion's mane supplements to their routine, since interactions, while not extensively documented, cannot be ruled out. Pregnant and breastfeeding individuals should also exercise caution, simply because there is not enough dedicated safety research in these populations to make confident recommendations, and the same caution applies to children for whom supplement dosing guidelines have not been well established. As with any supplement, if you are managing an existing health condition, taking prescription medication, or considering giving it to a child, consulting a qualified healthcare professional before use is always the responsible path forward, and it is one this documentary encourages wholeheartedly. Stepping back from the science for a moment, there is something genuinely fascinating about how this mushroom has travelled through history. In ancient China, lion's mane was sometimes referred to using terms that translate roughly to bear's paw or monkey head, reflecting its unusual shaggy appearance, and it was considered a delicacy reserved for emperors and the elite, believed to nourish the internal organs and support longevity. Buddhist monks reportedly incorporated it into their diets during long periods of meditation, associating it with mental clarity, a belief that, remarkably, modern neuroscience is now investigating through an entirely different lens, one built on laboratory analysis rather than ancient tradition. In more recent decades, lion's mane has experienced a striking resurgence in popularity, particularly among students, professionals, and biohackers seeking natural ways to support focus and cognitive performance during demanding periods of work or study. This modern wave of interest has fueled a booming global market for lion's mane supplements, teas, coffees, and extracts, and commercial cultivation has expanded rapidly across the United States, Europe, and Asia to meet rising demand. Some cultivators now grow lion's mane indoors using controlled climate systems, allowing for year-round production regardless of season, a far cry from its rare, wild forest origins. Part of what makes lion's mane such a compelling subject for a documentary is the sheer contrast between its humble, unassuming presence in nature and the sophisticated laboratory equipment now dedicated to understanding it. In the wild, it might grow unnoticed on a fallen log for weeks, visited only by insects and the occasional curious forager. In a university research lab, that same species is analysed using techniques like high-performance liquid chromatography, isolating individual hericenone and erinacine compounds down to the molecular level, then tested in cell cultures to observe how neurons respond. This bridge between old-world tradition and cutting-edge science is part of what has captured public imagination, transforming a relatively obscure forest fungus into a subject of genuine scientific curiosity and mainstream wellness conversation within the span of just a few decades. It is also worth noting that lion's mane belongs to a broader family of functional mushrooms that have each carved out their own area of scientific interest, including reishi, often studied for relaxation and immune support, cordyceps, associated with energy and athletic performance research, and chaga, valued for its antioxidant content. Lion's mane has distinguished itself within this group specifically because of its apparent relationship with nerve growth factor, a quality that sets it apart from other medicinal mushrooms and has made it something of a flagship subject within the emerging field of mycological neuroscience, a young but rapidly growing area of research that did not meaningfully exist before the 1990s, when Japanese researchers first isolated hericenones from the fruiting body of the mushroom. What makes lion's mane particularly compelling to the scientific community is not just its potential neurological interest, but the fact that it represents a broader category of research into how fungi and the compounds they produce might interact with human biology in ways we are only beginning to understand. Mushrooms have quietly shaped human medicine for thousands of years, from penicillin to modern immunosuppressant drugs derived from fungal compounds, and lion's mane is simply the latest chapter in that much longer story, one where nature continues to offer up molecules that challenge and expand what scientists thought was possible. As research continues, scientists around the world are working to better understand exactly how hericenones and erinacines behave within the human body, how well they are absorbed, what dosages might be most effective, and whether the promising results seen in early laboratory and animal studies will eventually be confirmed through larger, more rigorous human clinical trials. This is how science is supposed to work, slowly, carefully, and skeptically, building evidence layer by layer rather than rushing to sweeping conclusions. For now, lion's mane remains a mushroom of genuine promise and genuine mystery, a subject of active investigation rather than settled fact, and that, in many ways, is exactly what makes it so compelling. Perhaps that is the real story here. Not a miracle cure, not a magic solution, but a humble forest mushroom that has quietly persisted for centuries, valued by ancient healers long before modern science had the tools to explain why. Today, as researchers peer into its cellular structure and trace the pathways of its unique compounds through petri dishes and clinical trials, lion's mane stands as a reminder that nature still holds secrets worth investigating, and that curiosity, paired with patience and rigorous evidence, remains the most powerful tool we have for understanding the world around us. Whatever the future of lion's mane research reveals, one thing is already certain. Somewhere in a quiet forest, on the trunk of an old hardwood tree, this remarkable white mushroom continues to grow, indifferent to the attention it has received, simply being exactly what it has always been, a small, strange, and endlessly fascinating piece of the natural world.